This is a quick overview of the wiring harness removed from the van so you guys can get an idea of what actually is coming out. This is the idle control unit. It's mounted behind the passenger side tail light. I like to start there and remove that. Following the harness along, the camera will focus. There's two plugs that go to fuel injectors. Following it along, it comes to a junction here. This plug here goes to the airflow sensor, the air meter. This one has the Vanagon fix harness on it. Normally it would just end here. Let's see what we have. This went over to an idle air control solenoid on the engine. These are not the correct plugs, but these went to the power steering pressure switch. This went to another idle air stabilization guy. This is what went to the fuel pump. Going back along the harness, this went to one of the temp sensors on the engine on the thermostat housing. And then this wire, which I've cut, was what went over to the distributor on the boxer, and I had to cut it because somebody had mounted some equipment in there and it pinched the wire. There was no way to get it out without undoing half the engine. Then there's a split here, and this is the main harness that would run into the passenger compartment under the bench seat to the ECU, and it has a ground wire. Its grommet comes out with it. Going back along the harness here, we got a bunch here. Let's see, these go to the fuel injector. I believe this guy might be like an oil pressure wire. This guy is O2 stuff, these two. This little guy here is a ground. There's a couple of grounds here. This black wire used to go to the coil, which was mounted in this area. This black wire went to the coil. This, what we used to refer to as an H plug, went to the coil. This guy also went to the coil. And then this wire here used to plug into the box there. This has two relays in it for the fuel pump setup. And then the harness comes along. This section of the harness is only attached to the main harness by this one green wire here to this plug. But this is what went into the black box. This is the half of the round white plug. This is the black wire with yellow connector. Its other half is in the black box, and that's the ignition. This went to the post. I'm sorry, this is actually your oil wire here. This guy went also to the thermostat housing for the temp sender. You can kind of just make it out. It's yellow with a red stripe, so that's the one that goes to the dash. This guy here is what goes to the little breather tower on the engine. It has a little heated, little heater, like copper heater unit in it. And then what else do we have? This is what went to the coolant bottle for your coolant level sensor. And then the other harness that's going to come out and is separate from everything is this guy. And this is also mounted in the black box. This is your field wire. This red wire went to the post. This was the grommet in the black box. Follow the harness along. It splits. This is the spacer that used to go to the starter, and it has this lip on here which catches the boot on the large starter wire. You can either reuse this and cut it off here so the boot has something to slip back onto, or you can just delete it and let the boot hang over the nut, and that's usually fine. And then following the harness along here, this is what was connected to the back of the alternator, and then this guy here, which isn't looking too good, was the field wire on the back of the alternator. And that's it for all the wires coming out of the van.